Hi friends, I'm gonna make another palm thimble video. It's my favorite tool. I know you've heard me say that a million times, um, but I'm gonna do another like non-traditional use for it. So I've shown a lot of how to use it on like thinner fabric and just doing like simple, hems and how to do circles and things like that. And what I wanted to show you today is using it to sew a seam on, this is going to be a pouch that I'm making, but it's much thicker. And I use the palm thimble to do all of this hand stitching. That's usually what it's traditionally used for, is like a sashiko style of stitching. And so you can see this. So this is like one of my patchworks, and it's got all different thicknesses of fabric. It's got silks and linens and cottons. And the backing fabric is a double cotton gauze, which is really lovely to stitch onto, and does add a nice loft, but it's easy to stitch through. Things like the silk and some of the vintage fabric I have that's more tightly woven is a little trickier. It there's more resistance. And then this is a piece of naturally dyed lightweight, medium lightweight linen. That is going to be the lining fabric. And I did use some Thread Magic. I'm not sponsored, but it's great for cutting down on drag when you're pulling the thread through. It's a mostly quilters use it. It's a nice thing to have in your sewing toolkit. But this is a long sashiko needle, or an extra long one. It's I think about 2 2 3/4 inches. Oh, and I just unthreaded it. Uh, Great. All right. This is kind of a shorter length. I usually use a longer length, but it was already in my needle, and I like the color, so I'm going to use it. So I've pinned all the way around, and I'm going to zoom in. So be a little patient with me. So I zoom in, just so you can see this a little bit better. I put a few pins around because this is a really big piece. If it's a small piece, I don't usually even bother pinning. But the main thing that you're going to do is rest. You can see, like, you rest and hold the needle. So you don't necessarily need a needle this long. I just really like a long needle. It's what I'm used to using. It's what I'm comfortable with. And as you can see, this is where my needle always goes because there's like an indent in the thimble. But you rest it. I'm going to pull that down a little bit more so I don't unthread it again. Rest, gently hold, and make sure it goes all the way through. And I'm going to do probably 1/4 inch or 6 millimeter length stitches. It's up to you. If you're doing finer work, do smaller stitches, but that's the smallest I need to go. And I already went through some silk and really felt it sort of pull. So I don't want to gather too many stitches at first. I'm going to get a feel for the fabric. Oh yeah, that's a little bit sticky. So I probably gathered as many stitches as I should have, and I'm going to have to wiggle. Let's get that pin out of there. Probably gathered a few too many for the thickness of the fabric, but not too bad. Gently pull. It's nice to work on a flat surface, but you don't have to. I've done this like sitting down with my work in my lap. Don't pull the knot all the way to the fabric. You want to leave a little bit of space. And then you want to push the stitches sort of flat in the direction that you're sewing. And let's just do a few more. And there are lots of styles of palm thimbles. Some of them look like little pillows, and those are used when you're using a shorter needle and doing finer work. This is sort of like my workhorse. It's my workhorse thimble. I probably gathered about the same amount of stitches. And again, gentle tug and pull it flat. So I'm probably getting maybe 2 inches worth of stitches as I'm going. see, what am I stitching through next? I've got more silk coming up. Okay, so again, resting, holding, and these just help me grip the needle. They're just good for hand fatigue. You don't have to, you don't necessarily need them in order to use a palm thimble. Oh yeah, that's definitely silk. So when I feel like if you're stitching through tighter fabric or something like a silk, you can feel the resistance, and then you don't want to take as many stitches. And it's not that you couldn't take more stitches, it's just harder on your hands. And for anybody that does lots of hand work and lots of hand sewing, you need to be nice to your hands. And that wiggling motion that I was doing, it helps sort of jiggle the needle out. It just makes it a little bit easier. And again, just gently pulling. And see there, I only took about an inch worth of stitches. So let's do a little bit more. Yeah, there's still quite a bit of resistance. If I can't easily sort of glide, because these two fingers are gliding the thread down the needle, if it doesn't feel easy to glide, then I don't take as many stitches. I just sort of let the fabric tell me what it wants rather than forcing it to. I'm just going to stretch those out. And if you're having a difficult time flattening them, or sometimes stitches just don't like to flatten, if you just give it a little wiggle, it'll usually sort of, relax the stitches. Let's just do a few more. See if I can get oh yeah, I'll just see how many I can get on there. How about that? Let's see if we can gather a few more. There is a feeling that I get, and it's a lot of practice, when I sort of know the limit. And I'm going to say that is the limit. So push, yeah, that's definitely the limit on that. I can feel just gently sort of sliding the stitches off onto, give it a little wiggle, because right there you're pulling the eye through and the thread through, and so I think that always gives a little more resistance just because there's more happening. Okay, that's about the length of that thread. So then I'm just gonna do a little overhand knot, and again, I'm not going to, I think this is a tailor's knot, I can't remember which one this one's called. I'm not gonna pull it all the way tight to the fabric. So that is a really important thing to keep in mind. You don't want to pull it super tight. And I'm just going to show you the difference between the thickness of that fabric and the thickness of just like 2 layers of like a medium or lightweight linen. As I'm just accordioning that onto it, I can just put so much more fabric and take so many more stitches than I could. Again, it's always that folding, like you're using your hands together. You're not just using one and holding the other. You're just sort of, yeah, folding, sort of coaxing. You're folding and coaxing. I think my needle needs to be sharpened. It's making a lot of noise. Okay, so I'm going to push that. And even with that much, this is already, there's less drag on the needle. Pulling those off, shimmying it down, and it just pops right off the needle. And then it's the same. It's always the same, whether you are stitching, let's pop that out so you can see it. Whether you're stitching like a patchwork down, or sewing a hem, or sewing a seam, it's the same motion. A lot of it just has to do with how much fabric you can load onto the needle comfortably, because you want it to be comfortable. You want to just be able to sort of gently pull and slide, and then you're doing it right, and it just takes practice. The more you practice it, the better you get at it, and the more comfortable and the easier it is, and you will find yourself using a palm thimble all the time. Okay, have a great day, you guys. See you soon. Bye.